Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I'm here for Poppystamps today, and I wanted to show you how I use some Copic markers and some thermoweb foils to accent some really pretty new dies from Poppystamps that cut out those daisies. So to get started, let's check out the stamps and dies that I used. I have two new die sets from Poppystamps. One is the Delightful Daisies and one is the Double Stitch Square Frames. These are both from their latest release. I also have a stamp and die set from a prior release that's called Sending Scribbles. So it has all these sentiments and flowers and then the coordinating dies. I'm going to use the Delightful Daisy die as my flower die to color in and foil. I'm going to create a square card, so I'm going to use the double stitch square frames to accent my card. So I have a piece of white cardstock that I am cutting down to 4 by 8. I'm going to score it at 4 inches, and that's going to create my 4 by 4 white cardstock card base. I have the Delightful Daisies die. It has those two flower centers. I'm not going to bother cutting them apart because I'm going to cut them all out of white cardstock right now. So I'm just going to use some Neenah Solar White cardstock that is really nice and smooth. I'm going to check out my phone and see if I can see some daisy pictures just to get an idea of colors and textures and looks of how the flowers can appear in real life. I grabbed 4 Copic markers. I have Y11, Y13, Y15, and Y17, and I'm going to color in that larger daisy. I start with the lightest color, and then I use the medium color and the darker colors to just add some shading from the center out and from the tips in. And I'm going to do the same thing with some of the violet colors. I have V12, V15, and V17. Then I take the centers and just color them in, then dot them just like real flowers have those dots. And then I did the leaves with 2 different green colors. I had YG06 and YG09. And that completes the coloring portion. Now I'm going to grab the Thermoweb Deco Foil Adhesive Pen. For the centers of the flower, I'm just going to add some dots just to add a little bit of foiling, which will add some shine to those. I'm going to do a little bit of foiling on the leaves as well, just kind of on the veins, and then just some lines throughout to add, again, just adds a little element of shine. I have some Thermoweb foils from Gina K for Thermoweb. I have the Jelly Bean and the Wild Dandelion. So I have a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to run these through my Sizzix machine with the foil color facing me through a regular die cutting platform. And you can see that the pressure from the platform adheres the foils down to that adhesive pen once it is dry but still tacky to the touch. Then I cut out my white frames with those double stitched square frames. I'm going to take the center of the square and I'm going to use some Distress Oxide ink. This is the Peacock Feathers and an ink blending tool, and I'm going to create my pretty sort of teal fun blue background for my flowers to sit on. And I'm just doing some very basic blending. Initially, I actually wanted this a lot lighter, but I had a ton of ink on this blending tool and I just decided it was fine with a nice bright color. So I do have a darker gradient at the bottom there with the lighter bits on top. And I'm using an extra piece of scrap paper to hold the square down because when I put my fingers on it, I was getting yucky fingerprints. So it just makes it easier to hold the square down while I'm trying not to get fingerprints on it. So I'm going to grab my 4 by 4 card base that we cut and scored before. I'm going to open it up so that I can be sure that everything is completely lined up the way it should be. And I've decided that I'm going to adhere the center first using just regular tape runner. So I have my Thermoweb Memory Runner XL, and I'm going to use that to adhere my inked square. And I'm also going to use it to adhere my colored in and foiled die cuts. So I just want to place them slightly to the left so they have a little bit of room on that right hand side. It is a small card and I do still want to put a sentiment on there. So some of my flower is going to hang off of that square that will be covered up by the frame. So I'm going to add my centers of my flowers with a little bit of tape runner as well. And then at the bottom here, I'm just going to cut these stems so that they fit inside the square. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my little frame that is still in white cardstock, and I'm going to cut a thin piece of foam adhesive to go all around that square frame so that I pop up the frame over the inked background and my colored flowers as well. So I'm just using a pair of non-stick scissors and I am cutting the foam adhesive into thirds because it actually is wide enough that I can cut 3 strips out of one and it perfectly fits behind that square. I got a little lazy with this last one, didn't make it as long as the rest, but I think it'll be just fine that the rest of the adhesive will keep it up and it will not get too flattened. So I'm going to remove the protective backings off of all pieces of foam adhesive, and then I'm going to carefully line this up right over the square. And I actually had it a little off center, but it was fine. It all worked out perfectly. And then you can see that is pretty much how the card is going to look. Next, I stamped the sending sentiment from those sending Scribbles stamp set, and I stamped it in the Wilted Violet. And I wanted to stamp a sub-sentiment on white cardstock as well that says all my love, but I wasn't sure if I wanted that in the purple as well, the Wilted Violet, or if I wanted it in black. So I took one small piece of cardstock and I stamped the sentiments in both colors, one on each side, cut out 2 strips, and this way I could put it on my card and figure out exactly what worked or what didn't work. And I actually did like the Wilted Violet. I don't know if you stamp with your Distress Oxide inks, but if you don't, I highly recommend it. They really stamp beautifully. They're not just good for ink blending and techniques, they're also really great stamping inks as well. So you can see that both the Sending and the All My Love were both stamped with the Distress Oxide Wilted Violet, and I think they look beautiful. So now I'm just looking for placement here. I kind of like the little sub-sentiment strip under the Sending, so I was deciding that I was going to put that down first and then figure out exactly how the Sending would fit. And for the Sending, I did want to pop it up as well. This worked better with little pieces of foam adhesive rather than a strip, just because there are some letters that go way above or below the baseline and midline of the letters. So now I'm just going to remove those protective backings and fit that in right above that sub-sentiment there, and then it will almost cover the entire right hand side of that strip, so it almost looks like it's all one piece. And after that, I just wanted to do a little bit of embellishing. So I'm just going to line everything up here, and then I am going to grab out some Tonic Studios Nouveau Crystal Glaze. This is a liquid adhesive that dries dimensional and clear and shiny, so I like to add it as an embellishment. So that completes my card using some dies to create die cuts that you can color and foil. These are new dies from Poppystamps. If you're interested in the products, they will all be linked down below. I'd love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel here to see more videos. You can check out my blog as well, and I'll have some other videos from Poppystamps and other things linked here for you too. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. Have a wonderful day.